Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Today I want to talk about a couple of different things. First, I want to talk about a new channel that I just discovered. The channel is Ply Woodworking. I don't know what country he's from. He's from a different country. But I have to tell you, he does some marvelous work there and has some great ideas for shop projects. So if you really like watching about shop projects, he's really big into doing several different sleds and cutting jigs for using with a circular saw. I think I'm going to learn quite a bit from him that I'm going to be able to take and apply to my circular saw stuff that I want to get done and accomplished. Anyway, Ply Woodworking, all one word, and he's a little bigger channel than me. I think he's over 30,000 subscribers. He gets in well over 1,000 views on any video he's put out, well over. So he is definitely a fairly good channel size. What's really nice about his channel is really cool is that he has voice overlay on his thing as he's doing the work and you're watching it, and it talks to you and tells you what he's doing. What's kind of neat is that I may be wrong, but it sounds like it's computer generated vocabulary, what he's doing. And he has it scroll across the bottom what he is saying. So you can read what he's saying also. So if you can't quite understand what's being said, you can read it too. So it's a great channel, good quality, and he does seem to do some really excellent work. I think I'm going to get a lot of good ideas from this channel before it's done. If you get a chance, check him out and see what you think. I like to pass on the good channels out there that I see that I like, because I figure that if you're watching my channel, there's a good chance you probably like some of the channels that I like to watch too. So, and he's definitely on that list as far as I'm concerned. So, check it out. You'll see what I'm talking about. So, it's only about 49 videos so far, but they're plenty informative. So much about that. The second thing I want to talk about is my Gus miter joint. I think I'm going to have to make a wall of shame, I guess, call it. And what it is right now I have the channel out there, Cat Moses, and if you remember my little deal with him where I tried to ask him explain the difference between a key miter joint and a spline miter, because in my opinion, he misused the terminology. And he didn't have the courtesy to even respond to me, which I thought was a shame, because one thing about having a channel where you're teaching other people or giving them ideas about how to do things in the shop, I like to think that if you ask me a question, I'm going to give you the best answer I know. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you. If I'm mistaken about something and you call me out on it, I have no problem with telling you, oops, sorry about that. You're right. That's exactly what we should do. So, but apparently some of these other channels aren't like that. They give you bad information and they don't even have the courtesy to respond to explain it. And if they're wrong, I think is why they really don't like to answer, is when they are wrong about what they're doing and what they're saying. So be it. So if you want to get information, but yet it's not always accurate, I guess those are the channels you want to go to. So I just had it happen again. Make Something, Dave Pachuto. He's been around for a long time. He used to be the Drunken Woodworker channel. He changed it to Make Something. And his channel's okay. I don't watch it as much as I do some of the others. But he did the same thing. He was calling it spline joint and keyed miter joint. He doesn't seem to understand the difference between them. When I ask him to clarify it, no response. So I may start a wall of shame here soon and start building on that. So those channels that don't want to respond. And right now I have 3 that should be on that wall of shame. 2 of them, as you know, I've talked about. The third one I'll talk about someday. But that one is a real winner, and I'll explain all that when time comes. So, about who that is and what's going on with him. So anyway, wall of shame is the second thing. The other thing I want to talk about real quick is my laser light marker. And I have my laser marker right here so that, I hope I didn't blind you accidentally. Anyway, it's a little line marker, just a single line, magnetic base. Runs off of 3 watch batteries. And it's a great little unit. I've used it on several different projects around the shop, which I've done videos on them. If you can't find them, just put laser marker in the on my channel search, and it'll pop them all up, and you'll see all the different projects I did with it. Or leave me a comment, and I'll point you the direction to them. So anyway, I went out and I purchased some individual lasers this time. And these were only a couple of bucks. And then I also bought some little boxes. This is a AAA battery box. It holds 3 AAA batteries, has a little switch on it to turn it on and off. So I can hook this up directly to one of these and actually have a little laser set up. And also I bought one laser, this one, that actually is a crosshair laser, which I think I'll find a use for this thing too. So those are straight line markers, which most of the time that's all I really need or want. But it's nice to be able to have a source for these. If you're interested in any of this, let me know and I'll try to leave you where I got them. I actually bought them out of China, so it took me several weeks to get this stuff, but it all came in and it works good. I'm happy with it. I've bought stuff from over there before, and they're actually pretty good. And I think I'm going to find a good use, and I'm going to be able to use these on a couple of different places. So, and I'll get into all that later on. So if you have any questions about it, just stay tuned. Or if you want to know where I got them before I do that, just let me know. So anyway, the thing I really started this video on, even though I wanted to ramble at first, was I wanted to talk about my circular saw. If you remember, a couple of months ago or so, I did a thing on this circular saw here, which is my 5.5-inch Ryobi, battery powered. This is a great little saw. I use this all the time on my panel saw setup. This is the one I go to now instead of my DeWalt track saw. I've been starting to use this, and I've shown you some upgrades on how I can use this now to do some of the cutting I do, but eventually I'm going to make a whole set of tracks for this thing to be able to use with it. But what I really loved about this was the idea of the magnetic plates that I put on it. One for the zero clearance and one for the dust collection. And it works real well when I've used it. So this has worked so well, I decided, well, why not try and do it on my regular 7.25-inch saw, which I use for everything else. So I have this Ryobi saw here that I bought a while back. That's also battery operated, but this one is the 7.25-inch, which is much nicer to have a little bit more capacity on it at times, and power. This has a little more power than this one. And speaking of the power, the one thing I should tell you is that I really like a battery-powered saw much better than a power cord, a regular plug-in, where you plug it into the wall. And the reason for that is that the kickback. You almost never get kickback from these. If you start to get offline or you twist it and it's not in alignment on that blade and it binds, instead of kicking you out and that saw coming back at you even while you're holding it, which can be pretty scary, this, actually the blade stops instead. So, much safer to use. And so, I decided I'd put a zero clearance plate designed for this one and a dust collection plate, just like I did for that little one. So this is just, again, magnets. Have little raised areas here that fits into this area, so when you set it in place, it stays right exactly where it's supposed to be. Magnets hold it in place. Now, I will tell you that when I did that one, I used 1/2-inch diameter magnets, rare earth magnets, and it works real well with those. So with this one, I thought I would try it. And instead of the 1/2-inch, these are little 5/16-inch magnets, rare earth magnets. They come from Harbor Freight. They're very inexpensive. So I thought I got to give them a try. So I used 4 of these on this plate, and I will tell you, it works. Now, I probably should put more on here than 4, though. On there, I think I only used 4, and that works real well. And this works okay, but I'm worried that maybe this thing might pop loose. So I might add some more magnets to it, or maybe I'll add 1 or 2 1/2-inch magnets to make it a little stronger. So you want to make sure this thing is magnetized well enough that it doesn't just fall off accidentally while you're trying to use it, but yet it's easy to put on and take off. So, but it works real well. I don't like the plunge capability of this saw compared to that one, to the little one, because this one, instead of having a little knob that you tighten and loosen, this has this little lever that you lift up and down. And so trying to hold this up and plunge and everything, it's just not as good. I don't like it, but it is what it is. So most of the time I don't do plunge cuts anyway. But keep in mind that if you're going to use a zero clearance plate on one of these, you have to tie back the safety shield that goes over the blade, because you can't, it has to be out of the way, because obviously you can't use it through the zero clearance plate. So when you go to tie it back, that's one thing I like about the battery powered, is that if this is tied back out of the way, and I have both plates on this thing, like I do on here, then the only place that blade is of any threat is below here, which means I'm still minimized, even with this thing blocked out of the way, for it accidentally being somewhere where it can get you. So keep in mind that you do have to tie this back to use it with a zero clearance plate. Now, what I did on both of these is all I did is I drilled a hole through the shield beyond the circumference of the blade straight through, and I put a finishing nail in here. And then this thing has enough flexibility to bring it over and pull it around and holds it up out of the way, so that no matter what depth I put this at now, this doesn't interfere with the operation of the saw. So you do have to do that, and this drilling this hole is the only modification that I've made to either of these two saws in order to have these plates on here and use them, which I really like that factor. I don't like to drill holes in the plate and put screws in and things like that. These just snap on and off magnetically, and that makes it much better in the long run. So, and like I said, I don't like to modify something that comes from the factory, particularly unless I have to. So, and I didn't need to for these. So, as far as the side plate on this one, it's a little uglier than that one because I had to redo this a couple different times. So now that I had done the prototype, this is probably going to be redone for a couple of reasons. The main reason is, again, I used the 5/16 inch magnets from Harbor Freight instead of the 1/2 inch ones. And I have to tell you, it does not hold as strong as the ones on this one. And so, does it work? Yeah, I've hooked it up. I've hooked the hose up to it, and it seems to stay on there. But I think I may end up adding a couple of bigger magnets on this, and I think I want to rebuild this to make it a little bit better anyway. So, foghorn. Must be a tugboat going by somewhere. Yes, that's the furnace. It still does it again this year. So, anyway, it works okay, and I like it. But I am going to redo it, and I'll probably use some bigger magnets strategically to help hold this down on there a little better. So, the only other thing I'd like to do to this one and this one is I really like to put a depth control on it. So, this one here, you have no idea what your depth is on it. That one does have a little scale on it, so you can kind of get a rough idea of what depth you're going on your cut. This one has nothing like that. So, I would like to have a depth control so when I'm ready, I can just plunge it down, and if I set the depth control, it's going to drop to that depth and no further. So, eventually I may figure out some kind of depth control, and it'll probably be attached to this top plate, but maybe not. I may just make it so it just sets in here on its own and gives me that depth control, so I can take it, adjust it to where I need it, and drop it down in there, and it's ready to go. So stay tuned. I still want to make that modification so it's easy to control the depth of cut on these saws too before I'm done, because I think that would really be nice to be able to do. So this handle, this one here, this lever, this one has a lever that you have to lift up, and when it's lifted up, then you can take and you have to hold it up to be able to move this saw up and down to do the plunge. So plunging with this router, or I mean with this saw, is a little more difficult than it is with this saw. With the knob, this one has a little knob on it that you tighten and loosen to be able to plunge. This one sucks, but I'll figure something out. I may even modify it so that it doesn't, so I get better control here. So we'll see. But I would like to have depth control on them. Other than that, I am really impressed that this thing actually works just as well for dust collection as this one. I used the same hose on both of them. It's just a little hose that has an adapter on the one end so I can hook it straight up to my shop vac hose. And the other end just pressure fits into here, a snug fit on either one of these, so that you just plug it on there and then you get your vacuum to suck up the sawdust when you're using it. And it works nice, so that really adds dust collection to these circular saws, which normally makes such a mess. And it does a very good job, probably 95% collection of the sawdust, maybe even more than that. It does it really well. So, but as I said, you can do this on any saw you want. You could probably do something like this on even a corded circular saw if you wanted to. Just remember, if you're going to do to a corded saw, those things have more of a tendency to kick back on you than a battery-powered one. Battery-powered ones will stop when you bind it. A corded one will come back at you instead. Then you have to watch out for that. So when it comes to the little arm here, as far as the shield on it for the blade, if you're going to tie that back, just be careful, because you do have the capability of this thing kicking back, and even with the guards on here, anything that sticks out under here will still bite you. So be very careful of that. Other than that, I like it. I think it's easy, and you should be able to use this kind of method on virtually any circular saw out there, because I've done it to 2 of them now. I have an old corded one. I may bring it out and try it with it one time just to see if there's any tricks or things you have to watch out for when you do it on one of those as opposed to these. And we'll see. If you try this, or if you have questions about it and you want to try to do this yourself, leave me a comment down below. If you've done something like this to your circular saw, and it doesn't take long. I don't think I did this one in a couple hours. This one took me a little longer because it was my first try, and I probably spent a day on it off and on until I finally got the concept of it, how to do it. But it's really not hard to do, and you should be able to do this on any saw. And if you want just the zero clearance, that's one thing I like about it. I can use just the zero clearance if I want. If I need just the dust shield, I can use just the dust shield. They're separate. So I'm probably going to have a depth set control on it also, and the depth control will probably be a separate piece too, but we'll see. So any ideas or suggestions, leave them below. If you do something like this, send me a picture of it. I would love to see it and share it with everybody else so we can all see it. Send it to my email address, otb-thinker@cpamommy.com. So I would love to see it and see what you think about it, see how you did yours, and how maybe I might even come up with some better ideas after I see your version. So anyway, that's it in a nutshell. I guess I'm done rambling for the day. This went on a little longer than I thought, but there was a lot of rambling to do. So any questions, comments, leave them in the comments below. I love to hear from you guys. And if you learned something here, or if you like this video, or even if you didn't like it but you learned something, hit that like button. It lets me know that I'm doing the right thing. So, most importantly, please come back again, because we'll know when they're done around here. Thanks, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye. It's great on a cold day.